எதன் கண்ணே நிலையாகி இருந்திடும் உலகமெல்லாம் எதனதெல்லாம் எதனின்று அனைத்துலகும் எழுமோ மற்றிவையாவும் எதன் பொருட்டாம் எதனாலே வையமெல்லாம் எழுந்திடும் எல்லாமும் எதுவே ஆகும் அதுதானே உலகுருளாம் சத்தியமாம் அச்சொருபம் அகத்தில் வைப்பான். இதயமாம் குகையினாப்பன் ஏகமாம் பிரம்ம மாத்திரம் அது அகம் அகமாய் மேலே அவிர்ந்திடும் ஆன்மாவாக இதயமே சார்வாய் தன்னை எண்ணி ஆள் அலது வாயு அதனுடன் ஆழ்வனத்தான் ஆன்மாவில் நிஷ்டனாவான். Moreover, by the grace of Bhagavan, we are revisiting the verse number 8, which is Bhagavan's Ekashloki, Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram Aham Ahamiti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati Hridivisha Manasa Swam Chinvata Majjata Va Pavana Chalana Rodha Atmanishto Bhavatu. Now, this is one of the 3 shlokas that I adopt as the chanting of Sanskrit verses in ashram. They have this as the Mangala Shlokams, all the 3. Those 3 shlokas I try to adopt as the Mangala Shlokas whenever I start, and the Anubandham, as Bhagavan has given the Mangala Shloka, I am chanting the verse from the translation from Yoga Vasishtam by Bhagavan. But Hridaya Kuhara Madhya is one of the 3 verses which we chant before chanting of Sanskrit verses in the ashram. Ekam aksharam hridaya nirantaram bhasate swayam nityate katham jan Hridaya Kuhara Madhye and Deham Mridmayavat Jadatmakam. The Deham Mridmayavat Jadatmakam also we will be seeing in verse number 10. So verse number 8 and verse number 10 are Ekashlokis by Bhagavan. In an Ekashloki, the beauty is that the Guru encapsulates the pointer to the truth as well as the path to realizing the truth. Both these are contained in the Ekashloki, and it will be apt to remember that verse number 7 was clearly an Ekashloki by Adi Shankara. Now, this week, a brief look at the meaning once again of the verse. Then we will try to meditate on the beauty of Bhagavan bringing our focus to Kevalam Brahma Matram in this verse. And as Bhagavan has translated the other 2 verses 6 and 7 for our sake and placed it before the verse number 8, we are in a position to appreciate the benefit of the Kevalam Brahma Matram Aham Ahamiti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. So we can say that the purpose of this particular session is only to appreciate the gift given by Bhagavan, the clarity given by Bhagavan through this verse, where he especially uses that phrase Kevalam Brahmamatram Ahamaham iti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. So a brief look at the meaning once again, to look back at the sadhanas that Bhagavan has provided, and then our focus on this session will be exclusively to look at the ease that Bhagavan has given us in the practice of Atmavicharam by giving that phrase Kevalam Brahmamatram, without bringing any other thing in addition to the Brahman there. Now we go into a brief look at the meaning. I am not going to read out Sadhuvam Swami's translation. We will just do the Padachedam and go. Idayamam Guhainapan Kevalam Brahmamatram Ekamam Brahmamatram. So in the cave of the heart of course is we saw last week, is the spiritual heart, which we saw is to be seen from the physical perspective as to the right side of the center of the chest, but from sadhana perspective it should be taken really as the source of the I thought. Hridayam is the source of the I thought. Hridayamam Guhai in Atman, in the cave, in the center of the cave of the heart, Kevalam Brahma Matram, the Parabrahman all alone. Aham iti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. The Brahman shines as the self. So finally, the resting place, is it going to be the self or the non-self? Bhagavan says it is always going to be the final resting place when the final question arises, is the truth Atma or Anatma? The resting place is going to be Atma. So how does the Brahman shine? Brahman shines as Aham, I, which Bhagavan points out as the Spurana, as the life current. We saw in one of the earlier shlokas on Satsang, where in Yoga Vasishtam, two Punya and Pavana, two brothers who lose their parents, the more mature of the two, he points out that all these beings which are born and which die, they are all present in the state of life current. They all exist. They don't go anywhere. Whatever was born and dead was really not them. Their reality is only the life current. Our parents have not gone anywhere. If you see them as the physical form, then you may say they are missing. If you see them as the gunas, then you may perhaps see them in others. But if you see them as the life current, then that life current transcends the waking, dream and deep sleep. And that is the reality in which we should see everyone. That is the more or less the trend of discussion between the brothers in that story, which Bhagavan quotes in the talks. So, Kevalam Brahmamatram Aham iti Sakshat. The Brahman is shining as Atma Swarupam. Aham iti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. It is shining self-luminously. So, this self-luminosity is a great pointer to us that in the final analysis, our nature is to be seen as self-contained, not dependent on another light. Who are we? We are that self-luminous self. Kevalam Brahmamatram Aham iti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. Ekamam Brahmam Matram Adu Aham Ahamainere Avirtidum Anmavaha. It shines as the Atma Swarupa. Idayame Sarvai Anmanishta Navai. So, in the next two lines all the commentators pick up the first two words and the last three words. Idayame sarvai anmanishta navai. So the instruction is to the seeker to point himself towards the self and abide as the self. Abide as the kevalam brahma matram ahamaham iti sakshat. The one has to abide there. For that, what are the sadhanas given? Idayame sarvai tannai enni aal. So tannai enni aal. Whenever there is the self and the non-self, pay attention to the self. Whenever you are in a situation of self and non-self being present, in Upadesha Saram, Bhagavan says, Drishyavaritam Chittamatmana. Wherever there is a drishya, the scene, pay attention to the seer. So, Tannai enni aal aladu vayu adan udan aalmanattal. So the other sadhana given, apparently other sadhana given is with the breath control, with the mind taking the support of breath subsiding and the mind subsiding to a significant extent of laya but not being destroyed. And once the laya is obtained, since the thoughts are not rushing for, one should start Atma Vicharam and sink into the source. So the Majjata, Chinmata Majjatava in Sanskrit, we say the self-enquiry, holding the eye, Tannai enni, or directly seek from where both breath and mind, both breath and eye, from where do we arise? So the two sadhanas prescribed by Bhagavan or given by Bhagavan, which Ganapati Muni quite rightly concludes, are really only one and not even one, because the self consumes the path. In the self-luminosity of the self, whatever path we have walked, like the path of a fish or path of a bird in the sky, the path gets absorbed into the sky itself. Like that, the two paths given by Bhagavan is Tannai enni aal aladu vayu adan udan aalmanattal anmavil nishthanavai. Abide in the self. So we see in the book Who Am I? Bhagavan says, when one repeatedly goes and sinks into the heart, when one is in the antarmukha stage and does not allow the consciousness to use the brain and the senses to go out, but repeatedly visits the heart, then the primary thought mode of ego, it gets destroyed. And the ever-present self rises and shines self-luminously. One has to identify with that. That is what we are. We are not the body, we are not the mind, we are not the identity of the ego. We are the self-luminous self. And the Anmanishta Navai, one has to abide as that self. That is the meaning of the verse. We go into the beauty of, or the advantage that Bhagavan gives us in the content of the shloka by mentioning Kevalam Brahma Matram. We take a look at that by taking the three verses, 6, 7 and 8 together for some amount of investigation. So before I go into that, if someone has some questions from going through the contents in the last week, you can ask. Any questions are there? So we go ahead. Now it's very interesting that verse number 6 talks of the highest form of divinity. The Guru and the Sishya discuss Devan Yar, Yarmanam, Teruvan, Yenmanam, Aviyan, Yennar, Aripadume, Devanni, Ahume, Arkum, Surutiyal, Ekanam Devane, Endru. So, who is the Lord? Who is the ultimate divinity? Now, the spiritual sadhana, the quest we have started, is in search of the supreme divinity. I think Murthy sir is asking something. Let me just check. Yeah. அருணாச்சல ரகுணா கூர்ந்த மதியால் பேச்சு மூச்சடக்கி கொண்டுள்ளே ஆழ்ந்தறிய வேண்டி. So Murthy sir is referring to the verses, sadhana verses in உள்ளது 40. I think he is referring to the verse number 29, where the moochu, that is the breath control, is referred. like seeking a jewel or a valuable thing that has been lost in a well, and how one will dive deep into the well. While diving deep, one will be not opening the mouth nor proceeding to breathe. One will hold the breath and speech. பேச்சு மூச்சு அடக்கி கொண்டு உள்ளே ஆழ்ந்தறிய வேண்டும் அறி. That is the reference Murthy sir is giving here, that quite rightly, that the sadhana that has been referred to here in the second part has been covered in உள்ளது 40. The verses are 27, 28, 29, if I am not wrong. Now we go ahead with Bhagavan's Kevalam Brahma Matram, of which I have seized during this whole week. The beauty of that. Now in verse number 6, as we were recalling, the Guru points out that who is the Lord? Who is Devan? It is the consciousness which is aware of the thought without being affected by the thought. In normal sadhana traditions, it is called as Sakshi Bhava. Sakshi Bhava means that consciousness in which there is no like or dislike. We saw that this is a very practical approach to divinity by our ancestors, by the great rishis. That what is the divinity in us? Can I look at the outside world? Can I look at my past? Can I look at the future? Can I look at the present with an awareness that is bereft of like and dislike in the present moment? In the present moment, when I recall the whole of the past without like or dislike, then all the past drops away, because it is like or dislike that picks up the events and builds the thread of the story. So when the past is freed off, similarly the future is also freed off, and what objects lie in the present moment ahead, they are not attached to that consciousness, though it is present in all the worlds. Wherever there is a relationship as the seer, seen, and the act of seeing, the Sakshi is there. So the Sakshi Swarupa of Ishvara is present in all the worlds. What is the world? World is in one way, we can say the world is that relationship where the seer, seeing, and seen exist as a relationship, apparently apart from each other. So wherever that relationship is there, there is this Sakshi Bhava underlying that. So Guru is saying to Sishya that if you witness thoughts, then thoughts include other individualities. When I say 1 billion people are there in India, now the awareness which brings that 1 billion people are there in India and I am there, the difference between this I and the billion people goes off, and there is no like or dislike, particular like or dislike towards me or others. Therefore, the Sakshi Bhava crosses that kind of division as jivas. So, the Sakshi Bhava is supposed to be the Ishvara in that verse. Then in the next verse, in the verse number 7, we saw that Bhagavan takes the Ekashloki of Shankara there the Oli Unak Yedupagal Inanak Kirul Vilak, Oli Una Oli Edu Kan. The sequence, to put it in English, is that Shankara is asking the disciple, what is light to you? And the Shishya says, during the day it is the sun, and when the sun is gone, it is the lamp. And the sun and moon are gone, it is the lamp. Then, what is that light by which you see the sun or moon and the lamp? Then Shishya says, it is the eyes, the consciousness using these eyes. That is the instrument, that is the light which sees the sunlight. And we saw, if somebody goes off to sleep in the afternoon under a tree, how much ever the sun may be shining, that light will not be perceived. So for that sunlight to be perceived in the way we are perceiving it, there is necessity for this kind of mechanism and consciousness pouring through that mechanism. So we see that the light that reveals the sunlight and the lamp light is actually the eyes. And the light that reveals the eyes, the differences in the eye, whether the eye is seeing brightly, whether it is dull, whether something has fallen in the eye, or whether it is irritating or whether it is clear. These things are felt, the changes in the eye are felt by one, the mind. The awareness of the mind sees that. Therefore, the light that reveals the senses, whenever we say eye, we should include all the senses. All the senses are perceived by the light of the mind. But is that mind the pure drika? Can the mind look at itself? No. Just like the eye cannot look at itself, the mind cannot look at itself. What is it? That light by which the rest of the thoughts are seen. The rest of the thoughts are seen by the Sakshi Bhava of the eye. When the eye takes the freedom from like and dislike and has that Sakshi Bhava, then it is able to see the rest of the mind. So the mind is seen by the light of the witness. Now, to see the witness, no second light is required. The example is to see the lamp or to see the sun, no light apart from the lamp light or sunlight is required. Similarly, though not so similarly, the Atma Swarupa, the Sakshi, is self-luminous. Now, we also saw that the Guru in both verse number 6 and verse number 7 does not stop with saying that there is this Sakshi, does not stop with saying that there is this light or Akasha Tattva, the Chidakasha, but ends by saying that that is you. Ends by saying that that Sakshi is the self. Sakshi is the Atman, or the light in which everything is revealed is the Atman. So when that equality is given, then we can conclude either way, that the Atma has consumed the other, the light, or it is merging into the Chidakasha. These two possibilities are there. The two possibilities are avoided by Bhagavan by saying that Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. There is no reference to the other. There is no reference to the object being witnessed, the thought being witnessed, or there is no reference to the light revealing the objects apart from the self. Right from beginning, the shloka given to us emphasizes the Kevalam Brahma Matram, that there is only the Brahman shining there as Aham, 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 iti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. That is the advantage that we saw, that there is no duality even in the slightest, even in explanation, there is no duality. Right from beginning, there is only Advitiya. As Sadhuam Somagal says, Idayamam Guhayana Ekamam Brahma Matram. The Ekam, Sadhuam Somagal says, it can be looked at as one, but it can be looked at better as Advitiya, as there is no second. So the self alone is a very big support. Bhagavan gives us support in the sense the confusion of Dvidiya, whether I am merging into the Chidakasha or Chidakasha is being absorbed by me, this doubt is not there, because right from beginning there is only the self. Everything merges into the self only, and that is in the Sakshi Bhava. Now we find that this who am I is the appropriate way in which the self alone is realized, because when the other two shlokas have the witnessing nature of thought and witnessing nature of the light of consciousness that reveals. Now, not many of the old scriptures will say that they are direct pointers to who am I, because there is this two. There is this Sakshi, there is this light. Obliquely, in some ending place or in some other place in commentary, you will find that these are actually self-inquiry methods. These are actually shlokas on who am I. But they are all meditations on Atma Swarupam, no doubt. But in this shloka, in Bhagavan's Brahman alone is, it clearly leads to Atma Vichara alone. Then who am I? If there is only Brahman, why do I feel separate from him? Then who am I becomes the direct path, because there is only Brahman. Kevalam Brahma Matram. Why do I feel separate? So it directly leads to who am I without any other thing being there. Now that leads us to the fact that where Bhagavan says in Ulladnarpada 32nd verse that who am I is even more powerful than the Ahasputam Tattvamasi iti Vedaha, the Mahavakyas. Bhagavan says there that the Vedas ultimately point out, though they may be appearing to say that there is Prajnanam Brahma, Ayamatma Brahma, Tat Tvam Asi, and Aham Brahmasmi, they are supposed to be the Mahavakyas. But the key for sadhana, the sadhana of the Mahavakyas, the Anubhavam, the reality pointers are all supposed to be different. The sadhana Vakya there is Tat Tvam Asi, the Upadesha the Guru gives, that thou art that. Now, in that verse, in 32, verse number 32, Bhagavan says, Adani endru ammaraigal aarthidavum, தன்னை எதுவென்று தான் தேர்கிறாது அதுதான் இது அன்று என்ற எண்ணல் உரண்டின்மையினால். He says that more than meditating on the Mahavakya, the more direct path is to ask who am I. The Vedas have done their job by saying Ahasputam Tattvamasi Vedaha, by pointing out that thou art that, they have done their job. But instead of saying that I am this, not that, one should directly ask who am I. And Bhagavan says, if one does not pursue it like that, then one should take that is because of Uran in my, because I have not gathered enough strength to do that dhyana, to do the Atma Vicharam. So I should gather the strength and ask for whom is this thought, rather than meditate on Soham or Aham Brahmasmi instead of these direct meditations, or even the meditation given by Bhagavan. Kevalam Brahma Matram becomes a Mahavakya to us, because we are saying that Tattvam Asi, all those three are not there. Kevalam Brahma Matram is there. There is only Brahman. There is no Tattva, there is no Tvam, there is no Asi. There is only Kevalam Brahma Matram. That is, the self alone is so many times Bhagavan repeats in the talks. As Upadesham, as direct, you can imagine somebody in the Anubhava Sthiti, the Adhikari, saying the self alone is, that is Mahavakya. And Bhagavan says, don't hold that Mahavakya. the better approach is to practice who am I. So slowly we come to the importance of who am I, the Atma Vicharam. How powerful a weapon, how powerful an astram Bhagavan has given us. He has distilled all that, removed all the possibilities of dispersion or dilution of energy by thinking that there is something else. See, when we understand that there is only one thing, then all our energies are gathered. If there are two, there are three, then the attention gets divided, even as Sakshi. So in many places in the talks, we will find when someone asks the immediate next stage, that is not the Sakshi Bhava the highest. Bhagavan would say, where is the Sakshi in Kevalam Brahma Matram? It is I alone. There is an interesting conversation of these next highest states of consciousness asked of Bhagavan and how Bhagavan uplifts. It is not to put aside anything. They are really very high statements of the stage in which consciousness can be. One of the devotees asks, Sarvam Vasudevamayam Jagat. Sarvam Vasudevamayam Jagat. Is it not the ultimate statement about the consciousness? Bhagavan says that is one of the highest statements you can find. But he says that if Sarvam Vasudevam, in another place, casually he will introduce this point when the radio announcer will be saying Ellarku Namaskaram. We mentioned that before satsang or after satsang we mentioned Ellarigu Namaskara we say. Now Bhagavan smilingly and wittily he says, see, she is doing Namaskaram to herself. The announcer in the radio would have said Ellarku Namaskaram, and Bhagavan will be pointing, see, she has done Namaskaram to herself, because that Ellarkum includes herself. So Bhagavan will say to the person who brought about the Sarvam Vasudevamayam Jagat, yes, you say the trees, the plants, the air, the Agni, everything is Vasudevam. Now if everything is Vasudevam, are you not that? Are you apart? All I am saying is that if you inquire, instead of inquiring that all these are Vasudevam, if you inquire who you are, and you find out that you are the self, that you are Vasudevam, then you can't see anything else. If you eliminate the other ignorance that you are having and you find out your truth, then with that eye when you see Uruvam Tanayin Uladu Paramatram, Uruvam Tanandrel, Uvatrin Uruvatai, Kandurudal Yavan, Evan Kandalar Katshimundo, Kandadutan, Andamila Kandame. How Bhagavan directly brings us without the clutter of inquiring into the object. The Sutta Arivu is completely not necessary. What does Bhagavan say in that? If I am of the nature of form, physical form, or the subtle form of thought, or the causal form of ignorance, the I do not know, any of these three forms if I have, then I say God or world is also, it's all physical. No, it's not physical. I can think what is happening when the neutron star merges into the black hole. Yeah, I can think. Therefore, it is all made of mental stuff. So, I also have form, mind form, subtle form. God also has subtle form. No, none of these are there. We really don't know who we are. We really don't know who God is. So, the causal form is not knowable. To that point, they will come. Now, all these three, Uruvam, they are all called forms. When we identify with that, then we restrict Vasudeva or the world to form. When we do inquiry, who am I? And we de-link ourselves from the assembly of body parts, from the assembly of memories, and from the assembly of ignorance, and identify with the self, then that is Antamilakan. He says that self-luminous self is that limitless I which cannot see anything else. Only the self alone is seen. Now, that is why the who am I question is we see is more paramarthika than a direct statement about the truth, like Sarvam Vasudevam Mayam Jagat or the Mahavakyas, or even Bhagavan's own Mahavakya of self alone is more direct and more clear and more direct, more to the point is the sadhana, nan yar, who am I? That is what we come to in those verses. Now, the practical application of this, we can have a look. In one of our discussions in Ulladu Narpadu, what does this boil down to in our life? What do we identify with? In our earlier discussion, we had looked at another approach to what is this self, what is this ego that we have. For that, we had seen a story from the Greek philosophies called the boat of Theseus. I will revisit that so that we get a clear understanding of what Bhagavan leaves us with, what Bhagavan makes us see the world, the Ishvara, and ourselves as, with Kevalam Brahma Matram. In the boat of Theseus, the story is very interesting. Actually, it is present in Zen also. So I will tell the Zen story, which is very short. Then you can see the Theseus story. Then we can apply it to ourselves. The Zen story is that the Zen master is in the tradition of samurai people. So in the home there is a sword, samurai sword. So the father is asking his son, see son, our great grandfather, he had this sword. He found that the blade was not all right, so he changed it. Then my father, that is your grandfather, he changed this scabbard. Then I changed the handle. Now all the three parts of the sword are gone, but still I call it as the same sword of our great grandfathers. Am I correct or not? And the child, he says that we don't know really, father, whether we can call it as that or not. Now, the way Bhagavan says is, you have the choice. You have, the consciousness has the choice to assemble it and identify it, or disassemble it and say, no, this is not me. We will go to the story of Theseus, where there is this tradition of that soldier having gone in a 1,000-kilometer ship journey to an island where there is a huge monster, and he has killed it. Then, not 1,000-kilometer journey, some kilometers journey, it is 1,000 years before that the tradition, that the event happened. And for 1,000 years, on a particular day, just like we celebrate the various events here, they take that Theseus ship, go to that island and celebrate the victory of their ancestor and come back. Now, the story is that Theseus ship is made of so many boats, 200 or 300 boats. So over 1,000 years, each of those boats have become rotten and they have been replaced. They have been replaced by new boats. The question is this boat that is standing in that harbor now after 1,000 years with all its parts replaced, is it the boat of Theseus? Now, if somebody had taken those disassembled parts and assembled it in his garden, will that become the Theseus boat? And the conclusion is, we really don't know. And the YouTube article ends by saying, similarly, we don't know. Every moment our body is changing. But our consciousness is identifying this as Nandakumar. And my memories, the experiences in the memories, I gather it all together and identify with it as Nandakumar. But the stories are what I are telling is, we are not really bound to identify as we are assuming now. How we are behaving, we are behaving, that we are this, the attachment to the form has now restricted or limited our consciousness to the physical entity and a set of memories and a set of knowledge and ignorance. Whereas what Bhagavan is saying is that consciousness is not really attached or bound to this name and form. Uruvam Kanayin Uladu Paramatram. There is no need to attach yourself. So in who am I, what will happen? When you ask who am I, at the appropriate time, the right vasana, the right attachment will come up for freeing yourself off. In what order it will come up, we are not going to inquire. As and when it comes up, that vasana can be freed off by inquiring for whom is this thought. So the consciousness is freed of one limitation. Like that, the consciousness is freed till it shines self-luminously. Till our reality, which is present all the time, is realized as our real nature. Now, the beautiful part here is that if I am not the assemblage of body and the past memories, then who is X, who is Y, who is Z, who is Ramana, who are all those? I don't need to now look them separately with the eye. This one act of freeing the consciousness within of these identities, that one act is enough. Simultaneously, I know everything. Simultaneously, I know what is this world. Simultaneously, I know what is the divinity. There is no separate knowledge required to know what is the world, what is Bhagavan. All one has to do is de-identify with the assembled boat. The boat of the body and the mental, the thoughts, the events which make like and dislike arise in us. So we can go back. We can go back to verse number 6. That who am I? I am that witness who has freed itself of the body and the mind. Who is X? Who is Y? Who is Z? They are not the people I have assumed them to be earlier because of my ignorance. They are all this light of consciousness, which is pure witness, whether they know it or not. Just like there was a period I did not know, just ignorantia juris non excused. Just because you don't know doesn't mean the law doesn't apply. The law is that in reality we are divine. We are this. We are the pure consciousness. In verse number 6, it says we are that consciousness which witnesses everything without like or dislike. Verse number 7, it is said we are that consciousness which views everything in the form of light, not as objects. In verse number 8, Bhagavan makes it clear, neither do you need to see the objects, nor do you need to see the light. All you have to do is see yourself self-luminously. Whenever the thought arises, one clarification about the light, Bhagavan says that when Uma Devi, the Parvati, comes to Tiruvannamalai to complete her tapas, penance, Bhagavan says at one point in her tapas, she sees Shiva as a light, as a Chidakasha. But how beautifully Bhagavan narrates that, he says that she decides, if I can see this, then that light is within the scope of my perception. If anything is within the scope of my perception, that cannot be supreme. The perception is greater than that. Therefore, I have to let go of this light and ask, who am I? And she merges into the self, says Bhagavan. There are two places in the talks when this event is mentioned. You can look it up. You can key the word Uma and see that will appear. I think that article, those two places will appear. You can go through that. That when she perceives it as the light, then she says, the beautiful word she says is, if I can perceive it, then that is within the limits of my perception, within the limits of my knowledge. So that cannot be the truth. My perception is greater than that. Then who is perceiving, she asks, and merges into the self. And that is what we have to do. And in that one act of self-luminosity, one simultaneously understands what is this world. Who are all the people whom we were thinking as X, Y, Z, friend, enemy, and all that? All that vanishes into the self. and the Kevalam Brahma Matram Aham Aham Iti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. Hridivisha Manasa Swam Chinvata Majjatava Bhavana Chalana Roda Atma Nishto Bhavatu. All Bhagavan is asking us is to abide as the self-luminous self. In that singular act, all karma, all bhakti, all yoga, all jnana is completed. உதித்த இடத்தில் ஒடுங்கி இருத்தல் அது கர்மம் பக்தியும் உந்தி பெற அது யோகம் ஞானமும் உந்தி பெற ருத்ஸ்தலே மனஹ ஸ்வஸ்ததா kriya bhakti yoga bodha dascha nishchitam. All the paths find their culmination like rivers into sea. They all merge into the hridayam, the kevalam brahma matram. I think Murthy sir has put up something. Let me see that and then we will conclude and sit for Atma-ucharan. This is a huge one. Okay. Quick question. Mind and sense organs as instruments, karanam, with thoughts and five senses respectively, seem to continue even on realization. However, mind and sense organs taken as I, the ego feeling of individuality, or mind, the possessive feeling respectively, ceases on realization. Is this correct understanding? In other words, the incorrect ownership or mistaken self-identification is completely lost. I have to read it again. Mind and sense organs as instruments, karanam, with thoughts and five senses respectively, seem to continue even on realization. However, mind and sense organ taken as I, the ego feeling of individuality, or mind, the possessive feeling respectively, ceases on. Okay. Now what Murthy sir is saying is that instead of seeing them as five different things and mind as something which is capable of multiple thoughts, why don't we now gather them as I and mind and then erase them into the because the I and mind are erased into the self. So it can be done either way. The I and mind is the root sadhana in any bhakti margam. In any margam, the erasing of the duality of I and mind is the root. But the Atma-ucharan, what happens is, it has much more broad application. It erases all dualities, from whichever duality you may come. For instance, I was talking of the duality of like and dislike, which is there in the Vipassana and other meditations in vogue now in the West. The consciousness without like and dislike in the present is one of the sadhanas that is taught to school children in the military and other places. So in Who Am I, of course, what Murthy sir is saying is definitely a help, that instead of considering them as the five senses and the mind with multiplicity, you can now bring them down to that everything is contained in the duality of I and mind. And in self-realization, since this is erased, all that are simultaneously erased, of course. But the erasing of the Triputi, if you understand, Triputi means the relationship of seer, seeing and seen, then all that is already erased in the self-luminosity of the self. In the self-luminous self, there is self alone, Kevalam Brahma Matra. So it will be erased. There is no way any of them will survive. In Tiruvachakam, it is said that only because I consider myself apart from Shiva, I consider others are apart from Shiva and see that there is a world. The moment I understand, I am not apart from Shiva, how can I be apart from Shiva? How do I have Vyaktitva? When I lose my Vyaktitva, the whole Prapancham goes off, he says. In Tiruvachakam, Manikavachakar says that it is because I rise as Vyakti, I see so many Vyaktis assembled together as worlds. The moment I understand my Vaktitva is false, only Shiva is there, then Shiva consumes the world also, like that. What is key is the sadhana, is the erasing of the ego. There is something from Akash Deep. To those who know and who don't know, body is the self. With the difference, yeah. That is another shloka. in உள்ளது 16th or 17th, which says that தன்னை அறிந்தார்க்கும் அறியார்க்கும் உடல் நானே தன்னை அறிந்தார்க்கும் அறியார்க்கும் உடலளவே நான் தன் அறியார்க்கு உடலுள்ளே தன்னுணர்ந்தார்க்கு எல்லையற தான் ஒளிரும். So he is referring to, we will find that to this Ekashloki, many references will come from உள்ளது 40 and we can revel in that joy. Just connect with the Ekashloki, do Atmavicharam, and the உள்ளது 40 verses will come and say, oh, this is what I mean, this is what I mean. Just enjoy the journey, enjoy the sadhana, and just merge into the Kevalam Brahma Matram or Atma Tattvam. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Shall we sit for Atmavicharam? I think we'll sit for 10 minutes today. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. Kevalam Brahma Matram has been brought home to us. And while meditating on this verse again and again, I also remember that when we say shining as the self in all beings, we are talking of the multiplicity, but that is as a concession to us that Bhagavan has given that answer as to who is Ramana. He says he is that awareness shining in the hearts of all beings beginning from Hari. But that was as a concession to us, that is also in the context of the question asked where the multiplicity of options were given. And it is also as a matter of sadhana for us, like Bhagavan points out in Upadesha Saram Ashtamurti Vriddeva Pujanam, or where he says everything is only the self. He points out to us, when we see everything, then everything is the self. Only until we see everything. Now, if we take this most beautiful verse which Nanda Kumarji has dwelt upon for us in last class and this class, having 4 sections to the verse, as it were, there is the Kevalam Brahma Matram, there is Aham Aham iti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. The manifestation is also covered. So Bhagavan is the manifestation, you see. So he links it always for us to the manifestation. And how does the manifestation happen? How will it be? He says in Ramana Gita, it is a mystery. It is best left to be experienced. And out of curiosity, since we are curious, and since it sort of acts as probably as an incentive for us to get there, some descriptions are offered of that state, and or to put at abeyance any fears that we may have about the laws of identity also. Some descriptions are given by Bhagavan. Many teachers refrain from such descriptions, but Bhagavan does not deny that also to us. So he points out to us that it is there, it will be there, Atma Rupena Bhati. But what exactly it will be cannot be explained in real fact, because nothing that is experienced can be explained through words or concepts. This is a basic limitation in everything, even in physical experiences. It is said, in fact, that, for example, pain cannot be measured because pain differs from individual to individual. The same thing which I call a headache and somebody else calls a headache would be very, very different. And then pain thresholds are different. Similarly, it is said even about the taste of sugar. It is said, if somebody asks what is sweetness, you can say it is like the jangri, jalebis, ice cream, etc., etc., etc. But if they have not eaten any of those, it is impossible for them to understand until you put a spoonful of sugar into their mouth. So the anubhava is anubhava, and there is a very beautiful instance of one devotee called Khanna. He says that he had read a lot, and many devotees have similar experiences. He had read a lot about what a Sadguru should be like. He had meditated on the gunas of the Sadguru. He knew about the grandeur of the Sadguru. He yearned for a Sadguru. And ultimately he got the vision guiding him to Tiruvannamalai, to Bhagavan's presence. So he had a huge concept, a positive concept, of course, of the magnitude of Bhagavan's presence. But he says, having come to Bhagavan, it is impossible to say what exactly that the magnitude of that presence was. Nothing that I could think of, nothing that I could imagine, nothing that I could conceptualize could touch the actual anubhava of Bhagavan, of the Sadguru's Mahima. So also with the self. So we may have concepts of it, but the actuality would be the actuality. That's why Bhagavan says, Atmanishto Bhavatvam. Really speaking, I often feel that the very key phrase in that for every one of us is to get there. That is Bhagavan's request almost. It's all right. Take whichever path you want, 2 paths, 3 paths. It's all right. But don't miss this for any reason. Because the paths, this thought also came to me in the morning, because Nandakumarji had said he would continue on the verse. So the verse was coming to me in the morning. And I was thinking that there are people saying 2 parts, 3 parts about the verse itself is there. And then Muruganar Swami's verse also came to me, which Nandakumarji quoted. Birds in air, fish in water and birds in air move and leave no paths behind. They leave no tracks behind, he said. They don't leave any track behind. Not even for anybody else to follow. So that is the beauty, but then the great ones have delineated paths for us. They are guidelines, and in that Bhagavan, because he is very compassionate, and so he has simplified the guideline, codified it, and put it into a nutshell through Atma Vichara for us. And Atma Vichara, he has included every path. It's such a holistic, such an inclusive method. At the same time, he has ensured that it meets the requirement of Kevalam. This is what Nandakumarji has tried to point out to us, of the absolute obliteration of duality without a trace. Every path Bhagavan has been kind enough to tell in talks, if we read, in other conversations if we read, it will take you there. If we look at Upadesha Saram, if we look at earlier verses of Anubandham, nothing is excluded. But the beauty of self-inquiry is that there are 2 points regarding self-inquiry which Bhagavan highlights. One is that other paths also will ultimately lead us to self-inquiry. So it's all right. No matter what path we want to follow, we will get led to the same doorstep. That is one part. So if we have the aptitude for it, and we can start off with it directly, right away in the beginning. So Bhagavan gives us that option. He gives that option to every one of us, that if you would like to, you can start. You are already at the doorstep. You don't have to imagine that you are far away, because only Kevalam Brahma Matram is there. So he first tells us you are at the doorstep. But if we are not ready to accept it, we say we are somewhere else, then he will say it's fine. You can come to the doorstep. You will come. You will be brought to the doorstep. And this is the way to enter. Once you are at the doorstep, this is the way to enter. This is the self-inquiry is the key to open the doors. And self-inquiry is certain not to leave any vestige of duality. Whereas in other paths also, the duality will vanish through a moment of self-inquiry sometimes. In this self-inquiry may not be prolonged, but that ultimate question will come. We find it in Tripura Rahasyam, we find it in Parashurama sadhana, we find it in various other sadhanas as well. In some form or the other, that the final merger, that majjata has to happen. That majjana has to happen. And that majjana, Bhagavan again, self-inquiry also, he gives it to us in the form of pure jnana inquiry. as Nandakumarji often sweetly tells us, to include those who do not have bhakti. In order not to exclude them, he gives us the pure jnana version and he gives us the bhakti aspect of Majjana as well. For those of us who have an emotional image about ourselves, he gives us the bhakti aspect. If we are unable to hold on to the pure reason, then there is the bhakti, there is the Majjana, getting back to the source. Otherwise, there is the Chinvata, Swam Chinvata, who am I? Both are given to us, but the ultimate point, the point of grace, for which he is Edai Sadhuvam Swami, Edai Katrutara Manida Uru, Guru Uru Eduthu Vandiro. Edai Katrutara Guru Uru Eduthu Vandiro, Adai Katra Kudugal. Adadana Katra Kudugal, that's what I am teaching you, says Bhagavan. It is that Atmanishto Bhavatvam, and there is nothing but the self. There is only Kevalam Bhavamatra. That alone is, that alone envelops, that alone leads, and that alone is the fulfilling grace. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
Namo Namo
Namo Namo.